had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the sunrise.
Oh, here it is. I'm so surprised at the first one you found.
Yeah, that's one little. Yeah, you have to like.
I like that though. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's a pain to get it back in there, but I don't know if that's. You can. It's okay.
It's probably by design, right?
It's either by design or the cotton fiber of the wrist strap is just kind of crusted up a little bit, not from like something gross like sweat or whatever. But
if you ever find another one, how much you pay for this?
$60.
Yeah, if you ever find another one.
I've never seen one. So I gave Alex, for those listening, the Rollei 35.
It's really funny too because we were talking about this in a coffee shop.
I know, yeah. You were talking about the new one
a month ago.
You were talking about the new one.
Yeah.
And then that one showed up. So I didn't know how to work it. I've never had one before. I've never watched a video. I certainly knew what it was. And so when I couldn't cock the shutter, I was like, oh, is this thing broken? I didn't even know that the lens extended. So
Matt's about 3 feet away from me.
Yeah. And I think you still need to do something else to be able to actuate the shutter because you can't. And I had to look it up on YouTube, but I cannot remember what the next. Oh, you have to rotate the lens into a certain position.
This is your shutter speed, okay?
Yeah, and that's all fine, but you have to like put the lens in a certain rotate the housing of the lens to get it into a certain setting so that the shutter will activate. No, the actual
so it turns when you pull it out and then you can pop it. I don't know. I think I've got it activated.
Do you?
We'll find out.
There's no film in it, of course, so yeah, you've got it. And now you can
And then it is a single advance.
Yep.
I just nailed that, by the way. That was a perfect photo.
Pretty good.
Probably not. It was, we're at 3.5, which is a little bit forgiving. Yeah. Which that's probably nice. But we're also at 30, and I was definitely just like.
Yeah, a little shaky.
Not bright enough in here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice, though.
And it's like in perfect condition.
How is it?
Yeah, I know. It's a little tricky to. There might be a button you have to push. That button. That front button.
Yeah, I felt it click into place.
Yeah, don't force it. I forget.
These things are pretty indestructible. But
I gotta learn it.
Fuck, I broke Matt's roll.
It should be easier than that, but
I think it just pops. Is it because you have to set that?
I think that button has something to do with it. Yeah, I had to look it up. I had to look it up because I was like, I don't want to break this thing.
The film roll.
But yeah, so I went to an estate sale and they had a bunch of cameras. I just kind of passed on the other cameras. A couple Pentax Spotmatics and I think an Olympus slide cover, stylus. And even at half off, they were probably a little bit more than I wanted to pay. But this one was marked at $200. Half off was $100, which is totally worth it. But I didn't know how to work it, so when I brought it up to the people, I was like, I don't know if this works, like the shutter. I'm like, they're like, how about 60? I was like, yeah, I'll take it for $60. So I went home, watched a YouTube video, and learned how to actually use it, other than putting the lens back in. And the reason I brought it was because you and I had talked about the new one, and you were interested in it.
I've heard the new one is cool, but not good.
Yeah.
Internals. Not Sony guts.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to when things warm up. There we go.
Oh.
Getting a fresh
so
roll
you
of
must
film in there.
You have to have the shutter cocked to.
I guess so. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then
Very
it all
cool.
goes back in.
Rock solid camera.
Yeah, I'm super hyped to have it. It is definitely going to stay in the collection. I have a couple other. I have one other Olympus little rangefinder that I picked up recently for just next to nothing, but I'm like, I just got to move this along. It's more one of those kind of like a Canonet, a Canon Canonet kind of vibe to it. Not like a Leica M3, M4 vibe. And it's in like mint condition. It works. Everything's good. And this works. I figured out how to take the case off, I put the battery in. the light meter works. Yeah, miss. And for those listening, Alex threw a piece of paper.
Trash can was in the corner, by the way.
For the trash can.
Invisible.
You were trying to go for the bank. I thought it was the yoga mat for a second was a weird futuristic looking garbage can. Like, you're never going to hit that, buddy.
Get that thing.
So it's getting close to Film Photo Friday season, and and I haven't really gone out and done much photography all winter. As
we didn't really even
with
honestly, we didn't take
tech.
advantage of last year. If we're being completely honest,
I don't think we did.
You did.
I was out,
but like our quote unquote Film Photo Friday, I feel like it's been
I don't know if we were doing the podcast a little bit more on Fridays, or if it was just a little challenging with what I had going on with my kids or something. I don't know. I went adrift from a few things this past year.
It might have just been, Matt and his, because that was like right in the middle of when you were figuring the space out and everything.
Figuring space out, and just kind of, all those commercial pressures and sort of like trying to define what my approach was going to be. Like, how am I going to incorporate commerce into this in a really meaningful way where I don't feel like I'm just like the marketing arm for all these companies to sell hard drives and software.
Well, when was VidCon?
VidSummit?
VidSummit, sorry.
No, you're good, because there is a VidCon as well. VidSummit, that was, I think, in this coming September. I think it'll be like 3 years ago. So 2.5 years now since I went to that.
Well, so that would have been after film. Okay. That was because I remember distinctly discussing when you got back from that about
the issues I had and some cringe that I felt while I was there, and that certainly helped move things along. But I mean, a lot of stuff, everything from our conversations, reading Neil Postman's book Technopoly, and just feeling that temptation to make a video, because if I talk about this product, I'll make a good commission. But then saying, but I don't really have anything to say. It's not coming from a place of curation or a place of, I really want to share this with the people that watch my videos, and I happen to make a commission, but that's not my primary motivation. Mm-hmm. So just trying to figure all that out. And we've talked about this in past episodes, so we don't have to get too into it. But that was. But at the same time, though, in pulling away from the commerce side of it, revenue has definitely taken a big hit, and it's a problem. So I need to now that I feel like I have an idea. Okay, I know how to approach this to get the best of both worlds. I feel better about starting back up in a way where I'm outputting content that's different and better, but in a similar frequency than what I had before.
Gotta pay the bills at the end of the day.
Yeah, ultimately I can't escape that. So I have to also say, well, you could go get a job, or you do these other things to do it, and then preserve some kind of, you're only making videos that come from a place of creativity and more authenticity or whatever. But even then, before money even was a factor on the channel, I was making videos talking about products and software, because I was just like, oh, you guys got to hear about this, or this is really cool, or this saved me a lot of time, or this is a great tool for post-production or whatever. So I think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I like is, going back to the camera to wrap that up, that channel came from wanting to make content that had nothing to do with commerce, even though there's a slight element of it in that some of those cameras I sell in my eBay store, and I can guide people to my eBay store to buy that camera from me. But for some reason, like finding a cool camera at an estate sale and then making a video about it, and
we're going to come back to that, by the way. Matt, I'm trying to convince Matt to open a store.
Yeah.
It's our dream. It's my dream.
There's something about it. I had a couple nights the last couple of weeks where I've been going to this used record shop in Council Bluffs called Canesville Collectibles, and like it's spurred these little fantasies of like, this place is packed full of like 1 million records. It's stacks and stacks of used physical media everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it is intimidating. And I had these moments where I fell asleep on the couch. I wake up at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. I try to go back to sleep in my bed, but I'm like, oh, what if I did this? Or how could we get this? How could you buy the building? What would we do to it? What stuff would we put in there? How would we preserve the identity of that place and its legacy, but then still make it your own?
Let's do it.
No.
Let's just jump in.
Yeah.
I think I saw a video too with he owns like a bookstore in Austin. Who am I thinking of?
Oh,
It's Austin, or is it? It's maybe it's not Austin.
are you thinking about the photographer Jason Lee?
No, he was in. Oh God. He's like, I don't want to. I don't know. I haven't really read. He's What is his name?
I can see his face.
He's involved with like the Casey Neistat, like
368 stuff.
I don't know if it was that, but he has a bookstore. Anyways, something popped up and he had a video with it was like Matthew McConaughey or something was in the bookstore or something. But he just has a little bookstore.
Yep.
And I'm gonna find his name. You have no.
I'm not. Yeah, it's not ringing a bell for me.
Anyways, he's like a very successful author, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he just opened a bookstore. I don't know if it's like his primary thing, and I sound super. I'm out of my lane here. Like I don't know what I'm talking about clearly, but I watched this video and he just has this little bookstore, and there's people come in, he makes recommendations. Because I watched the Matthew McConaughey thing popped up on my recommended, and then there were a couple of other videos where he just like brings people in, and walks them around the store. Ryan Holiday.
Okay, I know the name.
Yeah, I think he did like I don't know. I think he's been on like podcasts and things like that before. And then I think he does like. I don't know what the books are. Maybe like productivity books or something.
Yeah, like thought leadership, productivity.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like in advertising or something. But yeah, no, he just has a bookstore and shows people around it. And I don't know if that's like a side thing or like if that's like his main thing. And I'd love to learn more. But I need to actually learn more about it because I'm actually interested in it a little more. But no, I saw that and I thought about it. That's what I would love to do. Is just like run a bookstore, or not even a bookstore, but just like a store. You can have people, they come hang out.
Yep.
You can have events. I think we're just more attracted to the idea of like a space.
Yes. To make our own third space.
But also
to host
like
a third space.
Having curation.
Yes.
Curated offerings with whether that be books or media. You can kind of have people over and do like movies or different things like that. It just
community
opens
projects.
Up. Yeah.
And then taking what we've learned from advertising, marketing, and content creation and all that stuff and going like, how do you
leverage it a little bit, but also
how do you make it so that a business that might be difficult to start in 2025 in a the business I'm talking about exists in Council Bluffs, which is a lot different than like the old market here in Omaha. But how do you push past those
maybe
limitations?
A little like cash flow limited traditionally, like a bookstore is more reliant.
It's a bit riskier. How do you use social media and content creation as a way so that people driving along Interstate 80 are like, oh, we got to check out that place? Or
I think I sent you this one. There was like a PBS video of a guy that owns a bookstore in England.
Yeah.
That I sent. I guess I sent it to you. And he was talking about his first couple of years in business, and he's like, some days we get one customer,
right?
And that's terrifying.
Yes.
And then some days we get
slammed.
Yeah, he just a cute little shop on the side of the road in this. I think it's in the UK or maybe like I don't know, Scotland or something. Right. But inside of a village, and just great bookstore. He has authors. They come do their thing. I love that idea.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Ever since we talked about it the other day, it's just been like constant. Audrey and I talked about it probably 2 years ago too, about maybe doing something in Dundee. And
I was talking to Tim, the guy who owns Canesville Collectibles. I've become, friendly with him in my time I've spent there. And I'm like, for someone like today to buy this build, because he owns the building, to buy the building, everything inside, like, well, how much is it? He's like, without hesitation, $1.5 million.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
can't afford that.
I'm like,
we're gonna have to pick up some Patreons.
Well, and I'm just like, I don't know that it's worth that much, Tim.
Yeah.
I mean, I love you, but you've got 1 million records in here.
Might have been his way of just saying like wouldn't sell it.
I didn't get that vibe. I think he definitely, and I don't want to. I just get the vibe that I think he probably has a number that he wants to hit to like officially retire, but then I think he thinks he literally has over 1 million records in this place, like between 45, 70, 78s and 33s and all that.
So it's like $1 a record, and then the building is $500,000.
Yeah, exactly. There's some basic math like that gets that price, and I'm just like, the building needs a lot of work. I mean, there's leaky roof. There's probably lead paint in there. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. You'd probably spend $500,000 just in gutting it and just re-drywalling it, get the plumbing good, like new bathroom fixtures, just stuff like that. So it'd be a lot, right? And it's a big space. I mean, it's 2 stories. And there's a basement, that is mostly finished but still basementy. So you're talking about a lot of real estate versus what I think you're talking about, which is something that's a little smaller footprint.
Maybe even like this size. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not this small, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm, and I think you keep it small, you keep it curated.
Right. Yeah.
Because there is something nice about having these huge stores, but they're like a junk factory.
Yeah.
And I love those. I mean, there's a couple of those in town and spend a lot of time. But yeah, I'm definitely thinking of something that's a little more just like keep it clean, keep it minimal, keep it flexible. If we want to have a photography show, we can do that. If we want to have music, we can do that. If we want to have, an author speak or a panel or, poetry reading or show a film.
Yeah.
Just a flex space for kind of what we're interested in. And then, you sell, a couple of typewriters, a couple of records that change out every, 2 weeks, a couple of books. And I don't know.
Yeah. And I like,
make it comfortable. I mean, obviously, you obviously run into the constraints of like, oh, well, if you have food, that opens up a whole new can of worms, but
health department, all the stuff you have to have, even if you just serve coffee.
Which stinks. But like you're towing the line between like a third space and like a bookstore. Yeah. And like, just a place where you can go and be open to new ideas. Yeah, I think would be
and I think I always had this like sort of what would make that work for me as someone who doesn't want to like have to work in the shop all day long. Like my uncle runs a small convenience store and a gas station mechanic shop in the town I grew up, and he's there 12, 13 hours a day. To not only monitor people pumping their own gas, do light repairs on vehicles, and sell stuff out of the convenience store. My aunt and him both do that. But, for me, that's not something that would work with me. I would, in a dream scenario, would have like someone who's a passionate manager of the space and the business aspects of it to a certain extent. You'd have an accountant, bookkeeper, whatever, but like Isaiah at Archetype, like he's not slinging coffee and like at the desk in the back crunching numbers.
You almost like you go into it of, hey, we're going to split this. Like here's the initial investment that we want to try to make back, and then open ownership almost.
Right.
I don't have any trouble. I mean, obviously, I don't think we'd be doing this to make money off of it per se. Like, yes, we'd want it has to be self-sufficient.
Sure,
it's got to cover the rent.
Right.
It's got to cover your going out and picking and finding things and our time curating stuff and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you almost just split the ownership.
Right.
Like, okay, like this person does these things, this person does these things, and then this person is like in the shop. And then if you need help, beyond that, go hire a part-time employee or something. But yeah, I don't know. We're just discussing this live and then
I know. Yeah.
Now it's out there unless we cut it out. But
and I think, having not done that before, for me personally, I have a very, idealistic, rosy perception of what it would be like to run a brick and mortar location. Like I, see more of the fantasy aspect of it than sometimes the harsh reality, whether it's working with other business partners or having employees or, trying to like the pressure rent. The pressure of maintaining the bills, getting, inventory in, all that stuff. And then just, those times where it's not busy. Some of my favorite shops in the old market that I go to during the week, I mean, it's a ghost town in some of those places. And then other times it's completely slammed. And obviously that's just the reality of retail in essence. But, I will say that, like at a coffee shop, there's certainly times where it's slow, but I never see them empty. Yeah. And then when it's slammed, it is slammed. Yeah.
Especially Archetype.
Yeah, gosh, it's like always busy. Bad Seed, I don't know if you've been over there recently, but they
where is Bad Seed?
Bad Seed's like 24th and Farnham or Harney, I think. But there used to be a bike shop next door, and they bought that space and then broke the
weird
wall.
Looking building.
I think so.
Like a block away from the high school.
No, that's Astute Coffee. Oh. Bad Seeds. Bad Seeds more in that no man's land between Midtown and or between downtown and Midtown Crossing. Huh. Anyway, doesn't matter where, but they have just like a totally different vibe to their space from Archetype. And my wife and I went there for coffee one Sunday morning, and it was just a great experience. Yeah. They have lots of greenery and plants. It's female owned. A huge.
Oh, I know Bad Seed. Yeah. Next,
really cool space. There's
great space.
There's Zen Coffee, which is next to Voodoo Taco, which is a whole different thing. But Bad Seed, long. It used to be really narrow.
Like 13th too. It's just kind of like college.
I get that all the time.
College-y vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when I just want a nice, rich, roasty, dark coffee that's cheap. Yep. Or inexpensive. Yeah. Not cheap. Cheap sounds negative.
13th is nice though.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. There's the good shops around town, and we talked about third places on the show quite a bit.
I'm almost like, there's no place to open up a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you? You almost. I wonder what's next to Bad Seed these days.
Well, they moved into that bike shop, but then on the other side, I'm not sure what's there.
Because they used to be, but then on the other side,
just up the way from them, most of those buildings are vacant, and they're a little rough.
I think the building on the corner was vacant for a while. Yeah. See, I'm almost wondering, do you partner with something like that?
Right.
You tear the wall down. You make an agreement like, hey, we're gonna have. It's a store,
right?
But we're just gonna have some comfortable like couches and seating, and we're gonna do gallery showings and yada yada yada.
That's right. The gallery would be awesome.
And then you just open it up.
Yeah,
and it's like right there's the coffee shop that is also open during the day.
Yeah,
maybe you get it to where like, hey, you get a relationship to where I don't know. There's something.
Yeah, they sell records in Bad Seed. My buddy Josh has 2 record bins, like bigger pieces of furniture with hundreds of records in each of them, and he partnered with them to sell records in their shop. And
so you'd essentially be doing that, but just next door.
Yeah, and be a little bit bigger footprint or more inventory that you're actually managing and all that. Yeah, there's something there. There's something there. I think too. We're also seeing a sort of a rebound to people going to physical locations to buy stuff, whether it's a small independent bookstore, merchandise at a coffee shop, and I don't mean merchandise in a sort of cringy way, but just some of them have like a small selection of curated items.
I think you have to curate and then teach, though.
Yeah.
Because I think we've seen this. I mean, how many bookstores, like shitty bookstores, have opened up? Like there was one in Dundee. Sorry, I hit the mic.
Yeah,
and I mean, again, I went in there one time and it was fine. Yeah, but it's nothing.
There's something missing for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine, and the books were a little expensive.
Yeah. New or used?
All new, but the type of new where it's like, you're like shopping at a Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, this book is $7 brand new, Prime 1-day shipping.
Right.
And I understand, oh, well, you're not supporting local at that point. It's like, yeah, I get it. But at the same time,
it's hard.
I go through so many books. I'm not going to spend $10 more on every book because, and I mean, I spend probably $50 a week at Jackson Street.
Yeah.
So
Jackson Street's a used bookstore in the old market.
Jerry Schatz.
Show and tell.
Found this last week. Super excited about this. This is one of my favorite filmmakers.
Oh, nice.
One of my favorite filmmakers. Jerry Schatzberg. So he did Portrait of a Downfall Child.
Man, you know.
Scarecrow and Panic at Needle Park. So Scarecrow and Panic at Needle Park are two of Al Pacino's
that's right.
first films.
That's
and then
right,
Gene Hackman, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman and Al Pacino and Scarecrow. It's one of my favorite. Audrey and I watched it. It was the first time she'd seen it the other night. So
I've never seen it. I don't know that I've ever seen an image from that movie.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You gotta watch. I think it's on TCM right now if you want to pop that on. Put it on right now? No. But yeah, Jerry Schatzberg, great film director, but also a wonderful photographer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we can flip through that or not. But yeah, this was it. Jackson Street is
nice
a
snag.
Wonderful bookstore.
Was it on display or was it just in the shelves?
Tucked away
good
on the shelves.
Find.
Yeah.
In the photography section?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, good snag, dude.
So we go. I mean, it's pretty much our routine.
Yeah, you're Saturday?
We'll go through there. Yeah. And Matt runs into us occasionally. We just let it serendipitous.
And I will sometimes, just for a little extra scratch at an estate sale, where
Warhol.
Isn't
that cool?
Where I strike out on cameras or records, I'll pick up books and take them to Jackson Street and just get a quick flip on some used books.
He's got some beautiful Faye Dunaway photos in here too.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, yeah. I mean,
and Faye's a photographer too, right?
Fantastic.
Faye.
I haven't seen any of her work. I wouldn't put it past. She's wonderful.
I might be confusing Faye with.
Yeah, this is cool though. Look at that.
Oh, I forget the actress's name. Yeah, that's great.
I mean, beautiful.
Yeah, there's like a sort of like a sub genre in the photography world of.
I'm so happy to find this.
Actors and directors that like are really passionate photographers. Jeff Bridges is a big one. God, I'm blanking on that actress. It's not Faye Dunaway. It's we're both not remembering names today very well. Anyway,
what are you gonna do?
Gosh, I think just my files are so overwhelmed. I can't access the information like I used to.
I think though, what's interesting, Jackson Street is always interesting to me because I can't ever get it.
Yeah.
There's always something new.
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah.
You can never archive it.
No.
So I'll go and I'll look at the same books over and over, but you find something new and so that is on the massive, like on the, like what is that? That's the, just quantity. Mm-hmm. I don't think we could do that.
No. Yeah.
There's no, I don't think we just, I don't think that'd be interesting to us.
Yeah.
But then it's funny because the environment is I was walking through Jackson Street last Saturday and somebody said, we're just doxing our routines somebody was like, they need some music playing here. And I was like, no, they don't.
Yeah.
It's perfect. They don't need anything.
You can bring the music yourself.
But I think it's interesting because they tried a lot of these small bookstores and it was over curated.
Yeah.
Getting back to my original point. And the prices were not crazy different. The books weren't, there was no excitement about any of the books or the ideas.
Yeah.
There's no hey, it was more just oh, here's a blurb from the New York Times or something, somebody I don't care about their opinion on anything book wise.
Yeah.
It's okay, here's a blurb about it's no, you're I want to hear your perspective.
Right.
Like if I want the New York Times' perspective on a book, I'll go read it.
Yeah.
I can get it through them. Like I don't want you passing that on to me in a game of like telephone. Like I want and Jackson Street, they have that table.
Yes.
And they put out different books every
that
week.
big table, yep.
And I go there every week just to look and see what's on the table. That's cool to me.
Yeah.
Like, and then, you get sucked into the rest. But yeah, and they keep it fresh every week. There's
They do.
something new in there.
Especially the window displays.
Window displays. Yeah.
Look at the window displays.
It's little things like that. And it's theirs. It's their perspective.
Yes.
And you can never quite
curated.
It's very curated. And it's not just like, oh, we read this. This is a good book because of X, Y. It's like, this is why I think it's good. And here it is. I think that's the key. Because, you over curate and then you price out your market.
Yeah.
Like Amazon is a competitor for a reason.
Right.
But we went to I'll get off the store thing here in a second, but Audrey and I spent like 4 hours a couple of weekends ago. The weather's been bad here, so it's like
Perfect for a bookstore.
Perfect for hanging.
Or being inside.
We went to the Barnes and Noble.
Oh yeah, out by Oakview.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
great.
I think the only one left in the Omaha Metro.
So I spent my entire childhood in Barnes and Noble. It was like Barnes and Noble. I mean, you walk in though, and it's the same.
Yeah,
it's a time capsule
visually,
back to my
it's
childhood.
The same, yeah.
Not in a bad way though.
No.
I don't mean that negatively.
We went to the one up in Sioux City last year on our way back from Okoboji, and we were like, "Wow."
I'm kind of bullish on Barnes and Noble.
Well, there's a really good.
Apparently, they're opening a new one in Omaha too.
Well, there's a couple good news segments, and it was either 60 Minutes or whatever, and I'll see if I can find it and put the link in the show notes. But they're where they talk to the new CEO of Barnes and Noble and how Barnes and Noble is like surging right now because they completely threw out their old business model with just like gazillions of books, but they went to curation and they went into like, how do we be a big brick and mortar bookstore, but with a small bookstore feel? And they went hard on that, all in on it. And I think when you sent me that video, that video that irritated me from Starbucks, the Starbucks coffee company, I think they're doing what Barnes
they're trying
and Noble,
to do it. Yeah.
They're trying to take that playbook.
Starbucks, despite what Matt says, because Matt's a huge fan of Starbucks, but if you guys put comfortable couches in your locations again and like give me some Seattle 90s vibes, I'm all in on. I'll be back in immediately.
Really?
Give me, the opening scene in So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yes. I ordered the large coffee. Hello.
Hello. I just watched all of like the Linda Richmond reruns.
Yeah.
Coffee Talk. Welcome to Coffee Talk.
I still quote that. Like Dottie will have something on her face. You got some schmeisel on your connect.
Oh, I'll be like, whenever I'll be like, I'm a little verklempt. Talk amongst yourself.
Is this podcast our version of Coffee Talk?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I just finished my coffee.
100%.
The Madonna guest.
Oh my
when
God!
Madonna
I'm doing
co-hosted with her was just,
and then
the best.
You have it was she comes around the back. She's like, I don't care for that Madonna.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so great.
Wonderful. I'll do the Coffee Talk intro instead of the studio sessions intro on this one.
So 90s, So if Starbucks felt like
not even, I miss being able to go and like sit in a coffee shop and like just
not in a chair though, like a wooden,
like a couch, just like
something comfortable,
kind of feeling like
versus a chair that's designed
the Panera close by here used to have chairs, and I'd go sit in the chair. It was a chair by a window, leather chair by a window, and I'd go sit and read every morning. I did this for a year and a half. Every morning I'd go read for an hour in the Panera. And
you suggested coffee one time at the Panera.
We sat in those chairs.
And I was like, Panera?
Yeah.
Like I was not.
Yeah.
I was Mr. Snooty archetype guy. Like. And
you're like, what is going on?
And nothing against.
No.
They have.
But they got. Decent coffee.
Maybe I was just surprised
some
that
good
you
baked
liked
goods,
Panera.
And they had those two chairs by the window, and they took the chairs away. And
they did.
Guess where I haven't been to
They
sit.
took the two chairs away.
They took the chairs away.
I wish you would make a video on that. Like that's something that would be interesting. Like Alex talking about the two chairs at Panera And
This is I love
there's
how
something-
far away we are. Like we need to somehow tie this back into like we have a podcast that says art and the creative process. We're talking about Panera's chairs, but
there's something.
no. So getting back to kind of where you were going,
to get you to make art about it, but
I'll get you back to you were talking about Starbucks, and I think Starbucks does have an opportunity because I think 90s coffee shop
yeah.
vibes is something that could come back.
Have you gone to Sozo Coffee House? Mm-mm. That is 90s big time.
Where's Sozo?
Sozo's by the Old Market adjacent. It's like totally under the radar. I didn't even know it existed.
Oh, it's underneath. It's the under.
Yeah.
Oh, I do know.
But
what
it is
you're talking
like
about. It's got like the pool.
Yeah, Central Perk, friends, big puffy chairs, from what I remember.
We'll have to go to Soho then. Check it out.
Sozo.
So
Yes.
you
Because
said
that's what
friends.
I thought it was too. Soho at first. I'm like, no, it's Sozo. Sozo. And I haven't been back.
I always thought that place had like weird reputation or something. I don't know why.
It is an outlier, but
Yeah.
maybe it's the move.
Could be.
But yeah, and I don't want to spend a bunch of time breaking down the whole Starbucks
Let's just
thing.
wrap up the Starbucks Barnes and Noble thing though, because you are. Yeah.
So for you, and I think us, when we went to Starbucks and stopped in, it was a lot of nostalgia. But I think we also noticed like, oh, the selection here is, it's not just all these tables full of bargain books. Like the old Barnes and Noble used to be just mountains of books that they over ordered. They would put stickers on them. They're reduced price, all that stuff. It was just like there were a gazillion different sections of different subjects and medical books and law books and these big, huge reference books. I think
The dummies for dummies books.
yeah, they've removed all that stuff and while still maintaining a large footprint as far as square footage goes, they've dialed in and focused the selections that they make. And they have employees there that are like smart about what the books are.
Yeah.
They have sections that they curate themselves. Like,
And it was very just like you and I talk about this. It's so easy. Like so many people kind of manage things and see the world through these like very hyper localized like echo chambers.
Yeah.
In 2025.
Yeah.
And we talk about like what makes YouTube great.
Right.
It's just everything. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna get whatever you're interested in, and you can find it on there.
Like old stuff. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Completely niche, completely not
Yeah.
niche. Like you're gonna find whatever, and that's the key for a lot. And Barnes and Noble, great. Like
Yeah.
I do think there is a market though for just like a coffee shop and a bookstore, and maybe Barnes and Noble's coming in to fill that. And
I haven't been out there. We should go out there. We should do a podcast episode
take the kids
at the Barnes
there,
and Noble
man.
sometime.
I think your kids
They loved it
just-
at the Barnes and Noble in Sioux City.
They enjoyed it?
They thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
it was, and part of this too. I'm like, how much of this is just nostalgia?
Right. And
Because I grew up in these bookstores, and
Yeah.
I go back and I'm like, this feels the same. This is
Yeah.
amazing. How
100%.
many things
You traveled through time.
can you say that about that haven't lost their way?
But if they can make it so that when you actually do look beyond that layer of the experience and go, wait a second, there's actually good stuff here.
I think I bought a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about, this podcast is about, art and the creative life, what does this have to do with Barnes and Noble? I sit there and go, I like when I see stuff like that out in the world because I try to dissect the creative intentions of, a big, what used to be a huge corporation and now a little bit smaller, but still doing well, rebounding and sort of rebranding themselves and getting back to the understanding the basics of how to connect with an audience.
It's
all that's
kind of what we
fascinating
talked
to
about
me.
too on some of those earlier episodes we did where we discussed Patagonia.
Yeah, right.
Just
That's exactly
like
right.
a self-contained
Yep.
business.
Mission based.
Don't like if I mean I will give the CEO I will now give the CEO of Barnes and Noble some advice. No.
Yeah.
But I mean if I was giving input just from like my perspective, focus on the energy.
Right.
Focus on the energy. Like what is the point of a Barnes and Noble? It's the energy and the ideas.
Right.
Like, you have ideas, you have the kids playland. It's amazing. It's just a place where imagination can be free. You have all of these ideas from just all across the spectrum.
Yeah.
There's no like just anything that you can imagine, put
Yeah.
it in there. Obviously don't go so overboard with like the manuals and the doctor, like, how to code Linux in 2004 or something like, I think we all know that kind of a thing, and then also add areas to hang out and sit, like can we get some couches in these places?
That's right.
Like, I want to just go.
Well, then
and
you'll
be
just
able to
read the books for free.
Yeah,
but this is what I mean. Like, this is what
it's like.
This is what some CEOs
that's what you
think.
want.
This is what some CEOs go. No, we need turnover. We don't want people just need to buy the book and leave.
I'm likely to buy I'm likely to buy a book if I read through it. Here, you want to sell me a book? Here's what you do. You get me sitting down in the store and reading through the book and finding an idea that's so cool that I'm like taking a picture of it or I want to highlight just because it's like, and then I'm like, is it worth the extra $5 I'll spend on this instead of going to Amazon and waiting for a day and losing this train of thought to just be able to underline this right now? Probably. Yep. So then I bought a book.
That's right.
And then, maybe you sit down, have a cup of coffee, whatever. I think that there's focus on the energy. Don't try to be the biggest. You're not going to compete with Amazon.
Create an experience.
It's over. Amazon won that battle.
Yeah. If you need something fast and cheap, Amazon's it.
Don't try to win that battle. You already almost went out of business because you tried to compete with Amazon.
But for the people that want an experience and they want to go someplace and spend part of an afternoon and discover something new and all that.
3 hours in there, man.
3 hours. And imagine if they had couches. You might look up and go, "We've been here for 6 hours, babe."
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Well, and that was the thing too. Like, we were prepared to kind of hang out.
Sure.
They just didn't have any place for us to hang out. It was go sit in the cafe at one of the tables.
Yeah.
Which we thought about, but we're like, there's just no place to read. There's these like uncomfortable little chairs.
So this is still connected, but we, mentioned Barnes & Noble and Starbucks sort of in the same situation, right? I brought up Starbucks as in like Barnes & Noble is kind of got back to basics, understood what
we hope
why people want to go there and what you're talking about, all that stuff. And when you showed me that Starbucks ad, which I'll link in the show notes, I'm like,
and so Starbucks,
why does this make me angry?
To give people context, Starbucks has a new CEO.
Yeah.
Starbucks has been losing, apparently they've been losing quite a bit of revenue over the last couple of years. And this, you start looking around, there's 100,000 drink options and the baristas are getting overcrowded with mobile orders and people are having terrible in-store experiences. So the new CEO,
way too much variety in the
new CEO
menu.
was like, we got to cut out the variety. We got to do what we do well. And we got to get back to the in-store experience is the focus. Those were like the guiding principles that he set when he came. And he's the same one that I think he was Chipotle's CEO or something. And Chipotle's great.
Yes,
I
he
like
was.
Chipotle.
Yes. Yep.
So I'm following it, loosely. I don't care.
No, I know
what Starbucks does. But I'm loosely following it because I feel this thing like if Starbucks could get back to what it was good at, I think there's absolutely a place in the market right now for a cool coffee shop. I mean, look, I'm a big local coffee shop guy anyways. I probably am not going to be patron, being a constant patron of Starbucks, but I do think it's interesting because if they could do it and show that works, we could see an entire shift towards more of that third place attitude. Whereas for the past 15 years, 20 years, I think people thought, third place is dead. It's all digital now.
Yeah.
So Starbucks is a major signal, I think.
Yeah.
If they signal, we're going to do couches and come hang out in our restaurant and buy a drink and have a good time and make friends. And that's a big signal to everybody.
And I think my reaction to the two, I'm sitting there going, why am I like, do I have a favorable feeling towards Barnes & Noble, but more of a negative one towards Starbucks? And I feel like with Barnes & Noble, and this is my opinion, I don't even know if I'm right as far as, how things went in 2008 when the Great Recession kicked in. But I sort of see Barnes & Noble as a victim of a couple of things, maybe partially the Great Recession, people cutting back on spending. Another element being, of course, us spending more time in digital spaces, on our devices, et cetera. The iPad, all that stuff, pushing things more towards digital. But then also Amazon being a quick and easy way to get inexpensive books. Maybe the cost of gas, driving to a Barnes & Noble, all that stuff, sort of made them sort of a victim of that perfect storm of situations that they unfortunately for them, didn't do a terrific job of seeing it coming. They've survived, but I mean, how many Barnes and Nobles got turned into a Planet Fitness across the country? You know, with Starbucks, I don't have that sympathy. I don't have that. They, to me, are part of the problem. Yeah. And I'm not saying that is true factually. That it's just how I feel when I think of Starbucks. Whereas Barnes and Noble, I'm like, oh, like, I feel for you. I feel bad for you. Whereas Starbucks, like, I don't feel bad for you. Like, you guys and this and that. And like, there's just a generally...
Barnes and Noble was like coming in and they were killing local bookshops.
Absolutely.
for a while,
Absolutely.
Right? So I do think part of it is branding.
Sure.
But yeah.
And I agree with you on that. Like they there's a whole movie about it, right? You've Got Mail is like,
it's my.
I was gonna say, like, what's blowing up over there? Your phone. 100%. And I think at that time, my awareness was low, so I didn't read about that in the news, even though it was happening. Like, it wasn't part of my emotional experience of Barnes and Noble. I had a positive one because I never went to mom and pop bookshops as a 14-year-old. And as Barnes and Noble was surging when I was in high school and college, it was a cool place to go to get coffee and check out books and sometimes get, discount books or gifts for family members for Christmas or whatever. So, so I have a favorable feeling toward them.
Well, and like, I think for a lot of, and that's kind of part of why I feel like Starbucks is a major signal, because we take it for granted that, like, we live in a major metropolitan city, essentially. There's a lot of coffee shops. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of cool little off the beaten path type things. Like, in my college town, there were a couple of coffee shops and we went to them. Yeah. But there's also a Starbucks.
Right.
And sometimes there's only a Starbucks. Yeah. There's only like the Panera or whatever. For vast, swatches of the country, I think that's the case. So if they're sending that signal, then you're signaling to a much broader audience, like, hey, this is back in fashion, right. Or, back in fashion. We're talking about hanging out in public, but I think that's a good sign, that it's a good cultural signal. Yeah. That, hey, this is a good thing to spend time in the place.
And I'll be curious, my biggest thing, with what I would hope to see from Starbucks and them doing this is obviously trimming down the menu, creating a better in-store experience.
It's almost a little bit Steve Jobs. They got a little ahead of themselves.
They're just McDonald's did that. Comes back in. We got to have pizza and burritos and all this stuff. And it's like, just...
I'm not comparing the CEO of Starbucks to CEO. And it's a stupid comparison anyways. But I'm just saying, like, I for some reason, I associate Cut the Fat to him. I think he's the best case study of cut the fat.
Well, and it's like, like we serve hot coffee, and then let's start doing iced coffee. Well, people are really responding to that. Let's go hard on that. Okay, well, now people want like iced fruit drinks and teas and stuff. Like, let's go on that. So, they just keep expanding.
Can I have coffee in my tea?
Right.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Whatever. And then food and, like all that stuff. So it just ends up, they just shoot themselves in the foot by trying to get more and more market share from other businesses. They want to take a bite out of McDonald's breakfast traffic, so they start making breakfast food. McDonald's wanted to take a bite out of Starbucks stuff, so they double down on their coffee and coffee offerings. So it's just all that.
It's so unfortunate too, because you'll never, like, Starbucks is like, they're caught up in that, right? There's that, and it's so funny too, because it ties into what we talked about before the podcast. It's like Apple comes in, they cut the fat, and now we talked just before the thing. Maybe they're kind of back to that state. Yeah. When you're trying to maximize your profit and increase it every single year, eventually you're going to reach a point where it's just, okay, got to cut it out again.
That's right.
Go back to basics again. And Starbucks is, doing that. Barnes and Noble maybe is on the other end of that. But if Barnes and Noble starts doing really well, they're like, oh, we can keep growing. Oh, we can get even bigger. Oh, we're going to open new locations. And then are they going to end up right back? Yeah. Like, lessons not learned.
Well, and not to make this whole episode about sort of like older brands that are trying to reinvent themselves and grow in a very competitive and difficult climate, but we talked about an episode where Chili's is completely overhauling their
Like
menu.
we're talking about these just like awful chains too, like
Well, yeah,
Chili's and Barnes
I've
and
got
Noble
all kinds of
and
nostalgia for
just
Chili's
odd
and
brands.
you know, that was like a big deal for my parents to come visit me in college and like take us out to Chili's. It was like, whoa, like, you know, we're going to a nice restaurant.
When I was a
and-
kid, Red Lobster was like the nice.
Oh my God. Yeah. Your mind is blown. But, you know, so with Starbucks, my concern is that let's make a touchy feely little hype piece with the AC/DC and like the cool cinematography and the retro digicam flash look and some old,
Yeah,
so
and
old,
their
old-
video was pretty bland, to be honest. But yeah.
And I sit there and I go, okay, you're going to like put forth these values in this video that, you know, like you're a coffee company and you're going to
The Starbucks coffee company.
yeah, the baristas are, you know, are professionals and they care about the product and they're going to make you the best cup of coffee, whatever. I'm like, but behind it all, you're coming up with coffee machines and processes at your restaurants to allow them to serve coffee faster and more efficiently. Well, how do you find the balance between fast and efficient, but still something of quality? And that mirrors what I was saying earlier before we started recording about I want to make content consistently on my channel, but I don't want to just crank out tutorial videos that are just soulless and boring and flat.
I do give Starbucks a little bit of credit on that, though. I don't think they're completely just, you know, factory print it. Like,
Sure.
I think they're baristas that are really good at what they do that work for. I don't know. I'm not trying to defend Starbucks. I don't even know what I'm like. I could care less.
To me, I think they would go.
I'm not for or against it, is what I'm saying.
If the customers could rate their coffee and a barista was consistently getting the top marks for how well they made a cappuccino and a latte and all that stuff, and the customers were like, "Oh, it's beautiful," but then they saw, but it's taking you 3 times as long to do it as Sarah, who is slinging coffees that are getting average reviews, but she's selling way more of them. I think Starbucks would go, we need more Sarahs. Sorry, not more you.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the high reviews for your well-made coffee drinks, but
Well,
ultimately,
they're playing the game of you buy a coffee in Des Moines, you buy a coffee in Palm Beach, it tastes the same.
Yeah.
That's the game that they play.
Sure.
And, you know, you're limited immediately when you start playing that game.
Yeah. So but then that's what kills me is like these big like Starbucks like makes a video where there's like a vibe of it being like a small town not small town but small mom and pop, like handcrafted, like an archetype, you know, like vibe. But you're not.
Yeah.
This is not what you are.
Well, what do you think of the signaling aspect though? Of signaling, like,
to me, it's,
I mean, you're definitely, you know, there is a wave happening right now about third places.
absolutely.
I hope it's more than a wave, because I think it's just an actual cultural antidote that is needed.
Yeah.
It's necessary. We need to learn how to be humans again.
Life
a little
in the
bit.
magic rectangle was a bubble, and that bubble is burst.
Yeah.
And we're not going back.
And we might go back.
Well, if anything, it probably wouldn't be
Yeah.
a magic rectangle. It'd be like a magic,
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
I mean, yeah,
sphere.
I can't say one way, but I do think for now, yeah, I think there's a generation of people that, and by generation, I don't mean like an age group. I mean, just there's a lot of people that are just like, this shit sucks.
Yeah.
I want to use
This
my
wasn't fun.
hands. Like, I don't enjoy this. This is not fun.
And my channel and what I've been doing is a perfect example of that. I mean, I'm just, the video I'm working on right now is just about, I don't want to look back on my life and have sat at a computer for 10 hours a day for 5-6 days a week.
Before we're at 56, we'll wrap. Yeah. But like, what are your thoughts on like the state of that trend? Like the third, like you introduced the concept to me formally. Obviously, everybody knows what it is,
Right,
but
but
you
the
were the
actual
first
term
one to
for
use
it.
the buzzword for it. And then
third
I
place.
started seeing it. This was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's popped up more and more and more.
Yeah.
Matt's obviously in the know.
I'm trying to stay on trend here.
What do you think? Like, where do you think the state of that is right now? You think it's?
I think it's still on the rise. I mean, I think.
You think we'll start seeing like Starbucks signal? That's a big. Again, we don't know if it's even real. This might just be BS.
That's where I'm like, if they put a big fluffy couch in, then I'll know that they're serious. But if it's still hard wooden chairs, like they want you to sit down for 25 minutes and get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
They want turnover.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them, but
like outside of that, do you think we'll see more places? Like, where do you think it'll start to infiltrate a little bit more?
yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see growth in especially areas like in Omaha where there's not vacant, like as in the whole area is dilapidated and run down, but you're going to see people like us talking about this. Oh, wouldn't it be cool to have a shop and it's got this and this? You're going to see a lot more of that.
A ton of vibes places everywhere.
Yeah. and I think, too, there's going to be more public or, public-private partnership in public going, we want traffic in this area. We're putting, here we're getting a streetcar. Like, we want economic development to happen along that corridor. So we're going to work with you to figure out, like, how can we have public-private partnership that allows someone who can't afford $1.5 million building, like, how can we make that work? Because you two seem to be uniquely equipped to bring something amazing to this area.
It's so interesting too, because they're doing it with like
skills.
pods, and like in Nashville, they have these pod parks that pop up.
Yeah.
And you split a storage pod in half, and like half of it's a bagel shop, and then half of it's a camera store, and then half of it's a stationery shop. And these are all just local, run by locals. I think they call them like incubators sometimes. But yeah, it's a small business. You get in, you pay. I think in Nashville it's like $3,500 a month or something, maybe even like $5,500 for like this half the size of this room.
Right.
But I mean, that's, and I'm sure they have similar things in New York. And I mean, you see pop-ups in Omaha. It's not as common, but
maybe they might take signals like, Workshop and Great Plains Vintage and, Lost Items by Modern Mayhem, Jackson Street, like seeing like, okay, these places are doing really well. There's a lot of foot traffic. Tax revenue is coming in. We want to figure out how to not like in a ham-fisted, inauthentic way, create areas like that in other parts of the city, but figure out how to attract people that are longing for in-person experiences to go to these places, and they don't all need to be goddamn restaurants. It doesn't always have to be go out to eat. Like you guys went to Barnes and Noble for 3 hours. Aaron and I went to a coffee shop, and I know there's a food, quote unquote food product there.
And there's a theme here too.
Yeah.
But it's just places where you can go be exposed to new ideas.
Yeah.
Movie theaters and coffee shops and
meet people,
restaurants and galleries and
I am, certainly yearning for connection. It doesn't necessarily mean like I want to find friends that I call up and we go to the movies and do this, but like I'll go to Homer's, the record shop in the Old Market, because they open at 8:00 in the morning on Saturdays, and I'll grab a coffee and check the bins. And I don't even I'm not shopping. I'm just like, I want to go to a place and just check stuff out.
That's what we do at Jackson Street. Yeah.
And I met a gentleman there named Mark. I kind of gave him a hard time. He picked a couple 80s records. I'm like, oh, you're the one buying all the 80s records, and like it started a conversation. And then an hour later, I saw him at Grapefruit. And then I told him, I'm like, you should go check out Canesville Collectibles in Council Bluffs. And then I went there later that day, and he was there.
Yeah.
And now every time I see Mark, even though I'm not like, Mark, what's your phone number? Let's go hang out. Yeah. Like, I'm going to know Mark. I'm going to know him by name. He's a character in the world of the third places that I go to.
When it just makes you care so much more about your community.
Yeah.
You care. You're so much more invested in the experiences and the...
Yeah. I mean, one of the best things in this tangent that I've been on with analog and physical media and all that is grabbing records at the estate sales led to me creating meaningful relationships with Mike and Mark at Homer's, and Dave and Simon and Kathleen at Grapefruit. And getting vintage clothing got me connected with Stefan and Trey at Workshop, and
it's so funny. Like
it's just wonderful to go to those places and have rapport and chat and whatever, and then I can go and they can go and we're good. And if I see them on Instagram, I can make, oh dude, that's awesome, can't wait to check that out. Like it's just this, and it does mix with social media as well. It has this wonderful ecosystem of connection with everyone. I can see them in person if I want. I can go to an event that they're hosting. I can tell you, hey, they're having a DJ thing at their store. Like, let's go on Saturday night and check it out. It's like I was really struggling with like looking up going, I literally sit at this computer for 10 hours a day, and the most third place I have is a Discord server with all my friends that don't live around here. Yeah. And so it's no surprise that we love doing this podcast and our conversations, and that we've turned it into a weekly thing rather than once a month, sometimes running into each other or grabbing coffee because we just need to catch up or get connected or whatever. And I've had more emotional, spiritual, whatever fulfillment from these experiences, not only with my closest friends, but then the acquaintances. I mean, I had a conversation with someone at a third place that was very personal about something that person was going through in their personal life. And it wasn't like right out of the gate, hi, what's your name? And I'm going to spill this stuff to you. But they felt comfortable enough to talk about that stuff. And I love, talking about anything psychological.
You're
whatever.
willing to get into it.
And this person was, and not because of me necessarily, but there was a moment where this person teared up about someone listened to them.
Yeah.
And this is not me patting myself on the back, but they just were like
things that were just commonplace.
Yeah.
25 years ago, 30 years ago, now seems so like, this can
happen.
This is nice.
This is possible.
What is it? And it's like stuff that, your grandparents would be like,
yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that's
we had cocktail parties every weekend.
Yeah. Like,
and brought the whole neighborhood
that's
over.
It's you're either doing that or you're just. It was funny because I had the experience that same experience of like, oh wow, yeah, this is such a silly thing. This has always been a thing. But I was Audrey was traveling a couple of weeks ago, and I just went out and got dinner by myself.
Oh, I love it.
And I just
great.
got dinner, read.
Yeah.
Like while eating,
Yeah.
I went to Inner Rail.
Yeah.
Just because
I love those places for solo dining.
Yeah, and I just got a little table over in the corner. There's a guy next to me who's like working on his business or something.
Yeah.
He was on his computer. I was like, okay, that's cool. Like that, there's a good energy coming from that guy. There's good energy in the place. That place is always pretty alive. The food was great.
Yep.
And I just hung out. I read for a little bit. I got up and I left. It was like an hour and 15 minutes. And I was like, man, that was so pleasant. Plus, when you eat by yourself and you're used to always, every time I go out, I'm used to buying, we're buying as a couple.
Right. Yeah. So it's double,
I'm like,
double
oh
the price.
God, this is so, this is how much it costs to
money.
eat out. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So, no, it was such a pleasant experience.
And that's the beauty of a place like that too, because sometimes, you're someone that has introverted tendencies. It's nice to go, you know what? I want the energy from a third place, but I don't necessarily want like the work sometimes of a third place.
I don't want to have a conversation.
Yeah, I don't need to maybe I've got a little bit of a time crunch, or I want to be out but not extroverted. I can have that minimal experience.
And sometimes you get those serendipitous moments with like
Sure.
like, okay, we were just the conversation was destined to happen here.
Yeah.
Those are great too.
Yeah.
I typically don't. I'm not good at like forcing that initiative.
Right.
I don't. I will not engage. I probably look like I'm just like, oh, I keep it to myself. But that's just how I like it. Typically. But yeah, whenever you do jump into a conversation, and it can be about something silly like the weather or whatever, and you're just like, that was nice.
Yes.
That was a nice exchange with another human.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think those are important. I'm glad that they have increased in frequency for me. And
so we're just very bullish on this concept of places to hang out, places to
hang out, places to go. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's, the estate sales on Sunday mornings, even if I'm not going to buy anything, I just like making the rounds, getting out, grab a coffee, talk to the people.
It's just so funny that this is a quote unquote trend. Like
I know,
like this is it's
normal
so
life is a trend.
Like just being a human, it's back in style. Like
It had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the sunrise.